Republicans say Democrats are responsible for the explosion in crime.
From coast to coast, crime is exploding in Democrat-run cities.
Lawlessness in blue cities continues.
Portland and in Seattle and Chicago, there's all hell is breaking loose in New York,
where people are regularly shot, beaten, and robbed in public.
Every city, it is out of control.
Chicago has become a sanctuary for violent, depraved criminals.
San Francisco devolved into a hellhole.
L.A. County, this is a lawless hellhole.
Dangerous, filthy hellhole.
I am getting out of this hellhole.
Your safety is in peril with Democrats in power.
Now, Democrats say it's Republican states where all the crime is, not Democratic cities.
Republicans love to blame crime on Democrats and liberal policies. But here's the thing. Among the 10 states with the highest murder rates in 2020, 8. Yeah, 8. You see them on the map. 8 voted for Trump. That's according to a new report by the centrist group Third Way.
I want people to be safe. That's not the Republicans' argument, because, of course, if you look at real crime statistics, which they're not interested in examining, the states with the highest crime levels are states run by Republicans. That's just a fact.
So, which side is lying? Are the Republicans lying or the Democrats lying? Let's break it down. Here's a quick message from the sponsor of this video, Zocdoc. You ever do anything weird, something's off? Your eye's swollen, your neck got a weird pain, or you have a cold that just won't quit. And instead of calling a doctor, you scroll TikTok and YouTube like that's gonna fix it. Or maybe you're just too busy. You think it'll heal on its own. Or you're like, I don't know which doctor to go to. Trust me, I've made every excuse in the book too. But now I use Zocdoc, and it makes things a lot easier. Zocdoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and instantly book appointments. We're talking about over 100,000 doctors from across every specialty, from mental health, dental, primary care, urgent care, you name it, they got it. And with Zocdoc, you can filter by insurance, see who's nearby, and check real reviews from verified patients. Now, simply just pick your time slot and boom, appointments usually happen between 24 and 72 hours, sometimes even the same day. Now, full disclosure, I personally use Zocdoc, and the doctor that I go to now, I found on Zocdoc. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments. Go to Zocdoc.com/Nate the Lawyer. The link is in the pinned comment or in the description of this video. Now, back to the story. Okay, so the president of the United States, Donald Trump, wants to attack crime in big liberal cities like Chicago, New York, and Washington, D.C.
President Trump is ramping up his rhetoric about federal intervention in several Democrat-run cities as a result of crime. Yesterday on Truth Social, he called Chicago the murder capital of the world. But recently released FBI data shows the Windy City isn't even one of the top 10 major cities in the U.S. for violent crime. Many of the cities with the highest violent crime rates are in fact found in red states run by Republicans.
Now, that's CBS, and they're supposed to be neutral. But if you didn't notice, they did what I call the dishonest shift. See, Trump was talking about cities and crime in cities, and notice how they switched it to crimes in states. And then they put up this list, which is a very interesting list. Let's look at Memphis, Tennessee. In 2024, they had 2,501 violent crimes reported for every 100,000 residents, which is shockingly high. And Tennessee is a ruby red state. That's also true. And if you look at the list, it's a mix of both red and blue states. But I'm going to tell you something that CBS is not going to tell you. Only one of these cities is run by a Republican mayor. All the rest of them are run by Democrats. Let's go over it. Current mayor of Memphis, Tennessee is Paul Young. He's a Democrat. Oakland, California, Barbara Lee. She's a Democrat. Detroit, Michigan is Mike Dugan. He's a Democrat. Little Rock, Arkansas. Surprise, Frank Scott Jr. He's also a Democrat. Baltimore, Maryland Mayor Brandon Scott is a Democrat too. Justin Bibb, another Democrat from Cleveland, Ohio. Kansas City, Missouri has a Democrat for mayor. That's Quentin Lewis. Milwaukee, Wisconsin has Cavalier Johnson, who's also a Democrat. Pueblo, Colorado, their mayor is Heather Graham, a Republican. Interesting, the first Republican on the list. But the state government there is Democrat controlled. And we'll end with St. Louis, Missouri, where Kara Spencer is the Democrat mayor of that town. And it gets worse because when you look at the top 20 biggest cities in America and organize them by highest murder rate to least murder rate, only 2 of those cities are run by Republicans and the rest are run by Democrats. So think about this. The worst cities in America are all run by Democrats, and they're found in Democrat-run states and Republican-run states. So what's the bottom line? Well, if you're in a city that has a high crime rate or high murder rate, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be run by Democrats. Now, here's the spin. First, let's start with YouTuber David Pakman. He's going to spin this like a top and tell us why it's really Republicans' fault that Democrat cities in Republican states are nightmares.
We might be better served understanding that and also looking at areas rather than just cities. What Republicans do is they shift the focus to cities rather than areas. And that allows them to play on these bigoted racist ideas that the city is filled with these scary minorities who are going to rob you and sexually assault you, and sort of like the Willie Horton ad type of mentality. What that shifts attention away from is the reality that Republican-dominated areas have violent crime that on a per capita basis is just as bad as a lot of the cities. Cities have more people and have more population density.
So we're not talking about cities, we're talking about areas? Now, to be fair, that was in 2020 when he said that. But people actually buy that as an argument? A city is an area. So I don't know what he's talking about. They like to talk about cities, which are areas, but we really need to talk about areas. What he really means is, buy the BS. The cities are bad, but we want you to look at the states because the states are a better political argument for us, even though it's highly, highly dishonest. And as you heard, he touched on racism. They're only saying this because of racism, not because of stats. I absolutely say it. You can't deny the stats. Matter of fact, let's move forward. Here is MSNBC continuing on with the only reason why they're saying this is because they're really racist. Even though the stats say crime is crazy, but it's racist to actually point out crime is crazy in Democrat-run city.
And it works even better when you have your very own propaganda cable channel running stuff like this all day, every day. Dystopian, nakedly racist video, preferably grainy security cam footage featuring almost exclusively black people committing crime in big cities. It is like a hellscape on an endless loop. If you're a viewer of Fox News, at this point, you just accept as fact that, for example, the entire city of Portland, Oregon has been burned to the ground. It's gone, nothing left. And that every other big city in this country is a post-apocalyptic inferno.
Now, obviously, if you guys have been watching the news, Trump sent the National Guard into D.C., murder rate plummeted, crime plummeted, and now he's saying we want to do that to other cities. We want the murder rate in these black areas where the murder rate is insane. We want it to plummet, especially like after Chicago. Chicago had a weekend where something like 50 people got shot.
A deadly Labor Day weekend in Chicago as President Trump continues to set his eye on the city, threatening to send in the National Guard as early as this week. At least 52 people have been shot in Chicago over the Labor Day weekend. 7 of those victims died.
The violence included 3 mass shootings that happened at Haddon in California, in Chicago's Humboldt Park neighborhood, and 2 in Chicago's Bronzeville neighborhood, 35th and State and 36th rather, and Cottage Grove. ABC 7's Jasmine Miner talked to people in Bronzeville about concerns about 2 mass shootings happening within 48 hours.
53 people shot over Labor Day weekend, 7 killed, 2 mass shootings. And we're supposed to believe Chicago is some type of utopia? It's so politically bad in Chicago. The mayor, the Democrat mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, when he was asked, hey, if they sent you 5,000 more police to keep the city safe, would that help? Listen to this clown's answer.
I'm curious, would you also like to get federal funding to help put 5,000 more cops on the street in Chicago? Would that help drive down crime?
Well, look, policing by itself is not the full strategy.
No, I understand that. You've talked about the other things you want. Would 5,000 more police officers on the street in Chicago be helpful to go along with all of those social programs that a lot of cities are engaging in and having success with?
Well, look, here's the best way I can put it, Joe, is that in the 90s when I was in high school, we had 3,000 more police officers and we had 900 people being murdered every single year in Chicago. It's just not policing alone. Of course, we want more detectives.
I know it's not policing alone. But do you believe that the streets of Chicago would be safer if there were more uniformed police officers on the streets of Chicago?
I believe the city of Chicago and cities across America would be safer if we actually had, affordable housing. Look,
okay,
I'm not saying that we don't.
That's not the question I asked.
I don't believe that we should narrow it down to just police officers, Joe, is what I'm saying. That is an antiquated approach. I'm saying we've invested in detectives.
Mr. Mayor, are you hearing what I'm saying? Would an additional 5,000 cops on the streets in Chicago help complement those programs to make Chicago safer?
Look, we are working hard to make sure that our police department is fully supported.
So this idiot who just had 53 people shot over Labor Day weekend and 2 mass shootings in 48 hours, they say 5,000 more cops. Would that just help? Not even drop, would that just be helpful? This clown says no. Listen, people, at the end of the day, these are black and brown people dying in the streets in places like New Orleans, Chicago, New York, Washington, D.C., Oakland, California, Memphis, Tennessee. And now that someone actually stands up and says, we want to actually put people on the street to save black people's lives, it is the black people like Mayor Brandon Johnson and the Democrats like David Pacman who don't want it to happen. They want to keep those black people dying in the streets. Why? Because it's politically expedient for them. So at the end of the day, crime is a Democrat problem localized in Democrat-run cities. Yes, you can pepper a couple of Republican-run cities up in there, but over 90% of the crime is happening in places run by Democrats who defunded the police, who went light on crime, and now they're trying to pretend that none of that has an effect. The local leadership, it's the mayor, it's the police commissioner in that city who controls how to respond to crime. It's the district attorneys in those cities, the ones that say, we're not going to prosecute crimes anymore, that control the crimes in those cities. So if you think I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section, because I'm going to tell you every stat you look at, from the FBI to the local crime reports, are saying the same thing. The worst crime in the nation are where Democrats run the show. Period. Full stop. My name is Nate the Lawyer. I'm out. Peace.